By the church's calendar, we are now in Passiontide, which is the last 2 weeks. In the olden days, we used to cover all the statues with purple, and we would have heard the Passion last Sunday as well as this coming Sunday, hence Passiontide. We don't do that anymore. We went back to the earlier tradition of the church, and the gospel of this last Sunday, because we have a catechumen, was the story of Raising of Lazarus. Because those three gospels, the woman at the well, the man born blind, and the raising of Lazarus, are preparation for them as they prepare to receive baptism, confirmation, and Eucharist. And so it's not the same. But the pace is picking up, and the opposition to Jesus will grow. We'll hear that in the scriptures as they are proclaimed over these next few days, the end of this week and into next week. You know, that opposition. And today we hear this encounter between Jesus and the Pharisees, and he says, when you see the Son of Man lifted up, you will come to know that I am. And they said, you are what? And I'm sure a few of you thought the same thing. But you see, the name of God that was revealed to Moses at the burning bush is Yahweh. And they never say the name of God. In fact, we used to have that in some of the songs that were written, especially by the St. Louis Jesuits, and the bishops have asked us to delete that from the songs because it was offensive to some of our Jewish brothers and sisters that we would use the name of God. And so we stopped doing that. But the name Yahweh is from the Hebrew, which is translated, I am who am. And so the Jewish people would never say the full name. They would just say, Yah, I am. And so we have a number of people whose name were connected with God, like Isaiah, Jeremiah, any of the Yah names. That's what it means. They're talking about the name of God. Jesus says, I am. And they didn't get it. They just didn't get it. They wouldn't get it. They never got it because they weren't open to see the power of God at work in him. But he uses that phrase. He says, when you see the Son of Man lifted up, you know, again, it's kind of like, what? What do you mean lifted up? Well, if you and I had read the original Greek, and if I was still able to remember the original Greek that I learned back many years ago, it would be a little clearer. But when Jesus used the word lifted up, the same word is sometimes translated from the Greek into English as raised up, or to stand up. When you see the Son of Man rise from the dead, then you will know that I am. They didn't get it, though. They didn't get it. And perhaps to some extent, others don't get it even today. But we have that first story of the people in the desert. And you know, you kind of, on one hand, say, well, why did they keep complaining? All the things that God kept doing for them, and they kept complaining, you know? And I'm going to say, on the other hand, when you look at what they were going through and what was happening, and, you know, they had no clue where they were going. They were just wandering around in the desert, and the desert is not exactly the most hospitable place to be. You know, they've arrived at oases and only to discover that there's no more water there. I mean, it's been kind of a difficult journey. And they have every reason to be frightened. You know, and they complain against God. And in this passage, we hear how, well, in punishment, they were bitten by serpents. And then Moses mounted on a pole a serpent and raised it up. He raised up on the pole the serpent. And if you read in the original Greek, it would make a little more sense. that raising up. And when they looked on that pole raised up with the serpent, when they saw that serpent raised up, they were healed. And that's the same image that Jesus is using in the gospel. When you see the Son of Man lifted up in death, but also in resurrection. And that's what we celebrate. We celebrate this one who was lifted up on the cross, but who was lifted up in the resurrection. And you and I look at him, not that crucifix back there, but you and I will look at him. He'll be placed in our hands tonight. We receive the gift of the one who was lifted up, who was raised up. And we receive him not just as some sort of gift or reward for being good, but as a remedy for sin. We receive him not as some sort of ritual, but rather as a gift that fills us with the power of resurrection as well. No, you and I receive the one who is raised up, who is the healing for our souls, our spirits, our very lives. We receive that gift, and we are raised up with him as well. It all is there in those words, simple words, and yet when you look at what it's saying, it means so much more. And I'm going to suggest that perhaps our own time spent just pondering what the Lord is saying to us will help us understand that it means so much more to us. As we realize the gift we're given, the power of God's love that comes to us, the power of God's very life that comes to us, that lifts us up now and will at the end.